All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday night. Whenever you're listening to this, we are talking some UFC Fight Night. Apex, back in the Apex, 12 fights. 12 fights isn't bad, but we had 13. We were talking a little pre-show. Garbrandt, Miles Johns, no longer on the card. 13, much better than 12, but 12 is my magic number. We'll get into the slate. I think it is very interesting for DFS. We've definitely been spoiled the past 2 weeks, though, with 2 5-rounders in both. Only one this time, but how's it going, Big Marley? How's your day going?
Good, yeah. Got a good football game on. Got a decent card here the week before John Jones fights again. So, yeah, hopefully it's a good, profitable card. Yeah, it's definitely a tricky one. We lost the fight, and then now we also have one of the biggest favorites priced as an underdog, too. So, I don't know. We'll talk it out. I think there's a couple fights that are I don't really have strong leans on, but I don't know that they'll be important. And then there's a couple fights that I want to target heavily. I don't think we have to be all in on the main event. So I don't know. Let's talk it out. I'm excited to bounce some ideas off you.
100%. So I'll just start right there. Broad slate overview for me. As you can see, let me refresh quick to get the Scogin price. He's 6,700. There we go. Broad slate overview. There's only 3 fighters priced in the mid tier this week. That is very, very rare. And why that is the biggest favorite on the card. And again, I wrote this on Tuesday, or the closest line fight, I should say. It says minus 155 here. Right now, I actually believe it's minus 175 is the closest line fight of all 12.
You just went on mute.
Bro, that's insane. I was on mute that whole time. And
you just went on mute as you were talking.
Okay, good. So if you notice, a lot of big favorites, minus 750, minus 500, minus 350, minus 375, minus 750. So many big favorites. So what that means for me is obviously you're forced into stars and scrubs for roster construction because there's only 3 fighters in the mid-tier, 1 fight. And then Zaleski dos Santos, who, as Big Marley mentioned, 8K, facing a $6,700 fighter. Short notice replacement. It was supposed to be Nicholas Dalby. I was actually really excited for that fight. Dos Santos was a slight dog. Now biggest favorite on the card at only 8K, and the fight is expected to finish. We only have under 2.5 props. So it's going to be Dos Santos, stars and scrubs. And there's so many people in the 9Ks that are similar when we go talk about them. I'm going to be mixing and matching. I'm naturally going to be under on Prates. I don't like Magny, so I'm definitely not going to be on the main event as heavy this week. But that's my broad slate overviews. Anything you want to add to that, or should we just start for the first fight?
Yeah, I think you might have already answered one of my questions. So, yeah, let's rock and roll.
Let's do it. I love it. First fight of the night. Again, going through the Stone, MMA, the Stone. We have it for all sports. All these sports going on right now. PGA swing season. All of it except MLB. ShippingNation.com, NBA 15, the promo code. No better spot to be. Get in the Discord. One of the closest line fights to start it off right away. Tresean Gore taking on Antonio Troli, minus 170. Tresean Gore, plus 145. Troli, minus 170 for this fight to finish. Gore, plus 150 inside the distance. Troli, plus 225. Interesting spot to start. Take it away. One other thing I want to mention. Finish. We do have a decent amount of projected finishes on this card, but it's also some are expected to go the distance as well. So it makes it, I will say, I'll tip my hand, really clear what my strategy is. I'm targeting fights expected to finish. I think this is an interesting one to start. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think so too. I'm cool with both sides of this fight. Troli just not a guy we can really trust. He hasn't won a fight in years. He used to fight a lot heavier too. Been on some special supplements in the past. So I really don't trust him, especially the longer any fight goes at this point. So I think a decision favors Gore. A striking match probably favors Gore. I think Gore's more live for a knockout as well. I think he's got the better hands, more powerful hands. But if Tricali's able to have success in this fight, I think it's going to come through the ground and more so early in the fight. I do think he's live for a first-round finish, maybe an early second-round finish. The longer it goes, though, the harder it's going to be for him to have a wrestling-heavy game plan. So I think it's just a boom or bust play that I like to target on the Tricali side. He might even be my preferred play for that reason. But just pick-wise, I think I'm going to go with Gore. I trust him a little bit more, and if he can stuff the takedowns, I think he either wins a TKO or he takes 2 or all 3 rounds on the scorecards with the striking match. So I want Gore exposure too, but I just like other favorites more than him, where I think Tricali is one of the higher ceiling underdogs on the card. So probably Tricali is my preferred play.
I like it. Hold on. I was trying to think of something for Dan Robinson. Long-time watcher, first time catching it live. Any chance we were giving away a monthly subscription tonight? We weren't, but hey, I'll give you a little proposition. I'll give you a 1 in 4 chance. I'm thinking of – actually, I'll have Big Marley put in our private chat right here, Big Marley. Pick one fighter of Prates, Neil Magny, Denise Gomes, Karoli Nikolakevich. Put it in our private chat. It's just completely random. It means absolutely nothing. I'm giving them a 25% chance for a free monthly subscription. So you message me in private chat, Big Marley, so we know it's live. Dan, you pick one of those 4 fighters. If you get it right, you'll get a monthly subscription. We appreciate it. How about that? I don't really have much more to add, though. My preferred play is Tricoli. And the reason is I hate underdogs on this card. I'm picking almost all favorites. I'm not stacking any fights. I do think dogs come through. But these price savings are really important. 1,000, that goes a long way for me on this card. So in close fights that I think the dog's live, because I am fading some of the bigger dogs, I'm just naturally there, my preferred side. But obviously, I like some Gore at plus 150. What's up, Ryan Cox? Sorry, I just did it for Dan. I just did it. I know. I feel bogus now. But hey, he got me. Long-time watcher, first time live. He got it to my heart. So appreciate you, Ryan Cox. All right. Let's see. Big Marley said Prates. He said, let's go Gomes. Pretty much one of the only 4 I want to play this week. Close, but no cigar. We appreciate you, though, Dan. Maybe we'll throw another one out there in the coming weeks if you can catch another one live. Come in here. But, hey, sometimes we do. Always on Sundays, we give out monthly subscriptions. Now I feel bogus, though, but I did give him a chance. Big Marley, if you can maybe think of something, maybe we can give him another. But, all right, let's get to the next fight on the card. Cortavius Romeo's taking on Gaston Balanos. This fight's minus 220 to finish. Cortavius plus 105 inside the distance. Balanos plus 255. And my question to you is it just so obvious striker versus grappler? Is Cortavius going to wrestle from the get-go? Because Balanos is a good striker. The odds in this one, very interesting as well. Cortavius opened minus 550. All the way down to minus 220 in this one. So line movement on the Balanos side. He is a solid striker. But, man, Aaron Phillips was taking dude down. He looks like just a striker. And I don't even know, to be honest, is he the better striker? Seems to be what he needs to do is keep it on the feet to win, though. Inside the distance prop, though, and his price tag naturally will have me probably more on him as my preferred play because as we move up the card, I'm not going to like many of these dogs. So that's how I see it. I hope you can talk me into some Gaston as well, or you at least like it.
Yeah, I'm cool with it, but this is another one where I'm just okay with either side of the fight. I do think that Cortavius is going to be the better wrestler, better grappler in this one. And then Balanos, I do think he's probably the better striker, probably has a little bit more. They both got power in their hands, but I would trust Balanos a little bit more over the course of 15 minutes, and I feel like he would have more round 3 power. So I'm cool with either side, but I do think it's going to be hard for Balanos to score well in a decision win, especially if he's not going for any takedowns. So I think that Cortavius just has more ways to score well. He could swing some heavies, get a knockout on the feet. He's also got a submission game too, so he can score well with that. But I think if anyone's going to land 3 to 8 takedowns in this fight, it's going to be Cortavius. I don't really think he's got that in him. And I didn't really think he was a great wrestler from what I saw, but he is just more willing to wrestle, and he likes to grapple as well. So I'm going to pick Cortavius to get the win, but Balanos, another solid underdog who I'll be getting lineups with.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned the takedown stuff. You don't think like 3 to 8 because his sub prop open plus 190, now plus 165. Balanos lost twice by sub. Like that feels like the path, but if you don't think his wrestling's that great and you don't see that much takedown upside, I'm still gonna play some. The thing is, like a first round sub. What's he in round one? Plus 325. Open plus 350. Like that's not bad at all. So you could drop down Prates down to him, leave 1,000, and that's a way you get different. Ito, Santos, chalk, stuff like that. He has that type of upside, but I do need dogs on this card. Now, what I want to ask you, Big Marley, is I don't know, like we're gonna get fight by fight, but I don't love many dogs. I don't know if you do, and I'm thinking with so many big favorites and only 12 fights, what if only one dog wins? And it is Gaston, even if it's a decision and scored 65, 70, 75. I'm viewing that as that could be enough this week. I'm not really chasing for ceiling down there. Definitely I'm in the 9K range. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, I do think this could be a card where one dog wins. I think I only picked, I want to say maybe 2 on the card, and it is the odds that talked me into it. It's not that I have a great feeling about any underdog on this card. So, yeah, I think just picking any underdog that you think is live is viable on this card. But Balanos also has first round knockout upside too. I think he's got some heavy hands. I just don't trust Cortavius really. So I don't know. I think it's it should be lined a little bit closer than it is in my opinion. It's just that the knockout's really the only way for him to have any real ceiling in my opinion. But I don't know. He's live to win. 65 could maybe cut it.
Yeah. Again, I don't want 65, but I just want, if you tell me if right now anyone a dog would win, I would be way overweight to the field for sure. Yeah, you bet, Dan. You bet. Anthony, what's going on? GK Pfeiffer, the absolute man, winning 50K last week on his bet. Shout out to you. Always,
I didn't
always
see that.
watching.
Let's go.
$11, I believe it was, to $53,000. 11.
Let's
11
go.
touchdown parlay, I think, or something. Yeah, shout out GK Pfeiffer, the absolute man. Yeah, this next one, I'm glad these are back to back because it's a similar. I guess we were just talking about like dogs not having too much upside, I don't think, but I'll take any win, and that's how I see this fight. Melissa Mullins taking on Claudia Segula. Fight odds on Bet Online has these odds weird. This says minus 260, plus 215, plus 160 for this fight to finish. Mullins plus 275 inside the distance. Segula plus 600. Are you laughing? I might be or 8-leg TD parlay. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I don't think obviously this fight's favored to go the distance, but we're gonna have very low ownership on this fight. Let's look. 15% on the Mullins side, which is the lowest, one of the lowest on the card, definitely lowest up top. And Segula, we have pretty low owned as well. On a card that I'm going to be eating chalk and Dos Santos, that I know I'm going to be mixing in the Monster Abduls, the Jillian Robertson, some Prates, like Ritter. I'm going to eat chalk on this card. I'm not going to play Neil Magny. I'm not going to play Scogin, even though, wow, we have Neil Magny pretty high. Anyway, long story short, I need to get different in some spots. I'm going to play some Mullins, surely game theory-wise. I think it's a card I need to get different in chalky teams. But plus 260 inside the distance isn't terrible. Can you talk me into, like, do you think either of these guys or girls have upside, or it's strictly just – I think I just answered my question. You have it as a 2-star, so you really don't like it. But I'm playing it for game theory ownership. That's what I'll say. It's probably the lowest owned fight on the card. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't like it overall, but I'm going to leave it in my pool as a way just to get different. I think Mullins does have the upside. If she's able to wrestle for 3 rounds, she could pay off an $8,800 price tag. If it's a 3-round striking match, neither one of them has any upside, but I do think Segula's live in that case. She's younger. I think she's faster as well. I could really see the striking being close. I think Mullins is the better, more crisp striker. But Segula could win on volume alone just by being the faster striker. So I think Segula's kind of more in play for me, like Balanos is in play for you. I think Segula's live to get a win, but maybe
I'm playing her too.
5-point win. Yeah. So it's like, give me any win from her and I'm okay with it. Whereas Mullins, I'm really not trying to pay $8,800. But if the rest of my lineup is chalky, then screw it. Let's throw in Mullins. She's my way to get different. Hopefully it won't be too duped. But yeah, this is one where I would have put it as a 1-star, but I could make a case for both of them being in the optimal lineup. So I threw it at 2-star. I doubt I X them out. But if I was going to make like 10 lineups and I'm making them on the Shiptomizer, sure, go ahead and X this fight out, look for better ways, have more of a sweat with like real sweat equity instead.
Yeah, it really depends, like your ultimate goal. Like I'm playing it in chalky lineups because I want to try and dupe with as less people as possible. But if you're only making a couple lineups and you just want more chance of sweat equity, like Big Marley's saying, this fight more than likely busts early. That's why the ownership's low. So, but yeah, I'm playing Segula, Balanos, Troli. Like I like earlier in the card, I lean the dogs, and then later in the card, I lean the favorites. That's just how it came to me. So we'll keep it rolling. Nate D, what's going on? Hope you're doing well. Let's keep it rolling to pretty solid real life fight. Interesting for DFS. Again, not one you have ranked really high, as you can see on the stone. The Mound Blackshear taking on Cody Staman, minus 260 Blackshear, plus 220 is Staman, plus 250 for this fight to finish. We have Blackshear plus 285 inside the distance, Staman plus 900. Blackshear looks pretty low owned in the upper tier. And when you look at it, plus 285 inside the distance isn't bad. My question to you. So we look, ownership's low on this fight. It's one of the most likely to go the distance on the card. But when you go to the stone, you see both average over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, both over 4 significant strikes. Blackshear, 4-inch height advantage, 8-inch reach advantage. Pretty interesting right there. So can you talk yourself into any of this fight at pretty low ownership? And then I guess, do you like this fight or the last fight more if you had to pick?
This fight or the last? Oh, man. I guess this fight, because they are both just better wrestlers than the other fight. Staman's pretty solid wrestler. He just doesn't wrestle enough anymore that I think he has like a type of ceiling that I thought he used to have anyways. And then
100% agree. 100%
and then I also
agree.
don't think that like Blackshear's a guy you really want to wrestle against. Blackshear is the better grappler in this one. He's more dangerous on the ground. So I feel like this could be one where the wrestling cancels out. We get a 15-minute striking match. I favor Blackshear in that as well. And that's kind of why I put it as a 2-star. But like at their best, then sure, that Blackshear is a good enough wrestler grappler. This could be a 4-star fight if I knew he was going to go out there with a wrestling-based approach to this fight. I just don't know that that's going to be the case. I also think Staman's hard to take down. It's not going to be real easy for Blackshear to get it there when he wants to. It's just that when he gets the fight to the ground, I really like his grappling instead. He's just not a chain wrestler. He's not a guy who I think is going to ever get 10 takedowns in a fight. It's just that it could only take one for him, and then he locks up a submission. So Blackshear's my preferred play probably, but it's another one where it's like, all right, if I need an underdog, we got Staman. He's only $7,300. He's cheap. He could go out there and get 4 or 5 takedowns in this fight if he really wanted to. So yeah, he's in play for me too. Haven't really loved any of these underdogs, and that's kind of like the rest of the card. It's going to be similar to that. So I have no strong underdog feelings. I'm just going to be mixing them all into lineups, seeing what fits. I'll go more core heavy with the favorites, and then just hope to toss in the right underdogs to get lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the more we talk through this card, the more I'm liking it for DFS. And again, like I knew it would be pretty spread out, but your ownership makes like the bottom tier. We have nobody. So obviously Zaleski's so popular. We have him at like 70%. Below him, pricing wise, though, we have nobody above 25%. That is awesome. Like a couple fighters up top, we're going to get to ownership will condense around Prates, Jillian Robertson, Mansour a little bit. You know the pivots up top. But all these dogs, like if you have strong leans on them, it's really easy to get overweight. I just couldn't agree with more. I couldn't have said it any better. Everything you said about that fight, I agree 100%. My preferred play is Blackshear because I think he's going to win. I don't think Staman, who hasn't wrestled really lately, is going to want to wrestle Blackshear. Or if he does, I think he can get caught. Staman's best path is just striking, but I think Blackshear is probably better there. And Blackshear, why I like him more is he can get one takedown, like you said. His grappling is definitely better first round, boom, right there, allows you to save money easier. So I'm picking Blackshear. I'm going to play some Staman in my 20 entry, but I do prefer the other dogs that we talked about below because I think they're a little more live at the end of the day. So that's how I see it. Agree with pretty much everything you said. We will keep it rolling. Next fight, the only fight that's priced in the mid-tier, Charles Racki taking on Matthew Semelsberger, minus 170 Racki, plus 145 is Semelsberger, minus 135 for this fight to finish. Both Racki and Semelsberger plus 215 inside the distance. So again, I've been saying this most weeks, but if you're new, reminder, I type these out on Wednesday usually. So it was minus 155, 135. Now you see minus 170 plus 145. So you see some line movement the past couple days or just from yesterday on the Racki side. Another thing that stands out on the stone, height advantage for Semelsberger, reach advantage, 4 inches and 3 inches, that is. But tail the tape isn't great. Not the most volume, not much wrestling upside, but it is expected to finish Big Marley. So all of that, there was a lot of pros and cons, and you have it ranked at 3. So I think that all makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I really don't get the Racki line movement in this one, to be honest with you. I don't know what, like where he's for sure better than Semelsberger to give him over a 62% chance of winning this fight. I feel like everything's kind of a toss-up. Semelsberger, in my opinion, is the more dangerous striker early. Semelsberger has 10 knockdowns in the UFC in 9 fights. I also think that Semelsberger could be the better wrestler in this one. Semelsberger also has more UFC experience against the better competition too. So I liked Semelsberger a little bit at plus 135. So I'm probably going to end up on him as a play. He is my favorite underdog, like with win equity anyways, but I don't know how high his ceiling is if he doesn't get a knockout. It's another one where I could see it being a 15-minute striking match. Semelsberger wins with 60 to 65 points, something like that. But he does have first-round knockout upside. He's got 110, 120 point upside. So I'll be heavy on him. I'm guessing he'll be one of my highest owned underdogs on the card. And then Racki, I don't really want too much of him at 8,500. I think if I get to him, it's more just as a hedge because I have too much Semelsberger. So maybe I'll get like 10%, possibly 15% Racki, but I'll purposely be under the field to him, over the field on Semelsberger.
I love it because of the $800 savings. He was just naturally my preferred play. Again, I'm leaning that in fights that I think the dog's live, so I absolutely love it. One thing I wanted to point out and then ask you, though, you mentioned the wrestling. Like, do you think there's outcomes? I mean, Semelsberger has allowed multiple takedowns, like big numbers, 7, 4, like Wells, Parsons, probably better wrestlers than Racki. Do you think that's possible? And the reason I ask what stands out, Racki opened by submission plus 850, now down to plus 550. That's a pretty decent chunk of line movement. I do like looking at submission props sometimes to see, does books think they have a lot of wrestling, or they obviously correlate wrestling submission props correlate to an extent. I haven't checked underdog or anything to see props, but any like 3+, 4+ takedown upside on the Racki side and he dominates wrestling or no?
I'd be surprised. I mean, he had one official takedown against Blood Diamond.
Yeah, I know. But he had 9 minutes of control. But
yeah,
I don't know how much was against the fence or not. But
I would think that the striking would have to be really going bad for him in the first round, and then he just completely changes his game plan to a wrestling heavy approach for him to have that kind of upside. But no, I wouldn't think. I don't know that he would even have a 2 takedown prop. I feel like it would be maybe 1.5 or 1.
I think you're probably right for sure. Let's keep it going to the next fight on the card. And this is one of 2 fights that we have a 5-star. Makes a lot of sense. You look at the stone, minus 600 to finish. Second most likely, Mansour Abdul Malik taking on Dusko Todorovich, or minus 457. Mansour plus 357. Todorovich minus 500 for this fight to finish. Abdul minus 240 inside the distance. Todorovich plus 400. Round 1 props in this fight. Plus 100 for Abdul in round 1, and then Todorovich plus 1,000. I mean, obviously, Abdul's a great play, hey? Expected to finish plus 100 in round 1. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. The interesting side is obviously Todorovich, because with this fight so heavily to finish, Mansour making his UFC debut, which is why you don't see this was a Contender Series fight, so we do add that, but making his UFC debut, has never been to a third round. So if he slows, Dusko has UFC experience. He is coming off a brutal knee injury in that Leroy Duncan fight, but man, you get a lot of leverage at low ownership in a fight expected to finish. I'm obviously going to be playing some Dusko for those reasons, but I will say, you see this line, minus 365, 300 yesterday. And what did I just read off? Minus 457, plus 357. He took almost $1 overnight. So that definitely does have me leaning Mansour's side, even though the price difference, I think he probably wins, probably round one. What do you see?
Yeah, this Malik dude is violent, man. He is dangerous. He's got solid wrestling early. He's got mean ground and pound. He throws heavy strikes on the feet. So he's got a big ceiling, and it could come with a takedown and then ground and pound finish. It could come in the first 1 minute with a knockout on the feet. I think he has good enough wrestling to score well in a decision. I don't know that he has good enough cardio to wrestle and score well in a decision, though. And I think that if what's this dude's name? Todorovich, if he can weather an early storm and like a real storm and then tire Malik out, I think Todorovich is live to get a late second or a third round finish. He could even start to wrestle late himself if he wanted to. So yeah, I'm going to be heavy on this fight in general. I was kind of thinking like maybe give me 60% Malik, 25% Todorovich, and that would probably put me overweight to both sides of this fight. That's the way I want to go about it. I just want to be heavy on the fight as a whole. Malik is my preferred play. I think he probably finishes in the first round, but he's also going to be super chalky too. So let me get a bunch of him. I'll hedge with Todorovich, and then let me get around 20%, 15% of lineups, just in case it's something like Malik dominates round one, Todorovich wins round two and round three, mostly on the feet, and nobody scores well. There's just so many ways I feel like this fight can go scoring-wise, but Malik is very dangerous early, and I think this is a fight that the UFC probably wants him to win.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think this fight's more than likely optimal. Why I'm not making a rule to go 100% personally is the price. Just say he puts up 106. 106 is great. Why can't Robertson score 110? Soai score 110. Prates score 110. Ritter 110. Like, I think the 9K range is absolutely loaded, where even 106 at 9,300 isn't guaranteed, and that's why I'm not going to go 100% on any fight on this card. If I did, we'll get right into it. Perfect segue. It would be this fight, and it would be all in on this guy. Obviously, very chalky. We have him at 70% right now, 69 to be exact. Zaleski dos Santos taking on Zachary Scogin, minus 750 dos Santos, plus 500 Scogin. Only prop I see right now under 2.5 is minus 170. So I expect Zaleski dos Santos to have a pretty nice inside the distance prop. I mean, Big Marley, I guess the only thing to ask is, are you going to play any Scogin? Because we know Zaleski's the best play in the slate. I guess, are you going to lock him? Then that would answer the next question if you say yes. 5-star, 1-star. What is interesting, though, he is undefeated. He's fought cans. But hey, 4 inches in height, 1 inch in reach. He will be bigger, but it's a tall, tall task. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'll leave him in my pool, but that's more like an MME pool. If I'm making, 5 to 10 lineups by hand, he's not someone I'm clicking on. And then I probably would go all in on Dos Santos in that scenario, just with a limited number of lineups. Let's just go all in. Because I do expect him just to be better everywhere. I wasn't really impressed with Scogin. Once he got into top control, he looked pretty good, but he's just fighting bums, and I just don't know that he's even going to have that edge in this fight. I feel like Dos Santos is going to be the better wrestler, better grappler. And
Benoit Saint Denis couldn't be handling Zaleski on short notice. Like, it's hard to see Scogin going in there and bullying him.
That's true. And yeah, I think Dos Santos has a big striking edge in this one. I thought Scroggins' defense was terrible. His offense wasn't really good either. So I just think easy DS. It's all him in this one. I want to be heavy on him, but I just worry about about his game plan. If he's not going to wrestle and he doesn't get a knockout, he's probably not going to be crazy enough on the feet. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I'm
bringing up
glad
that
you said that.
Washington knee fight. Maybe he will be a little bit extra crazy on the feet with short notice. So
I'm glad you said that.
Go all in?
No, I'm glad you said that. You talked me out of it, because if it's no wrestling and it's just on the feet, like going all, he's 70%. Like, I'm fine playing. I know sometimes people talk about it. I don't want to be even with the field. I want to make a stand. I'm fine being even with the field. Tambo says it pretty well, I think. He expects to build better lineups with that person than the field. So naturally, you're more overweight to good lineups. I approach it the same way. I think that's good. So if I'm 80%, fine. If I'm 90%, fine. If I'm 100%, I like everything, fine. But if I'm 70% also with 30% fight fades, I think you made it sound like that very well is possible. Under 2.5 and minus 175 isn't like crazy. So yeah, I think I wouldn't blame anyone for going all in. I honestly would rather go all in than play Scogin. But I think I'm just going to go like 80% or whatever I get him, then fade the other part, and that's how I'll go about this fight. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do ownership-wise, but I agree with that. If I had 100, I'd be fine with that. If this was a different card and I liked other underdogs more, I'd be fine with 50%, but that's just not the case on this card. I need him in my lineups because I just don't like the underdogs. So, let me mix him in with another one or maybe two underdogs on each lineup, and that's how most of my lineups will look this week.
For sure. Yeah, looking at Semelsberger is the obvious pivot. There's not really many mid-tier fights. You save 300. Any team you build and you go Semelsberger, no Dos Santos, you can definitely eat plenty of chalk, thinking out loud, stuff like that. Obviously, I have plenty of lineups with them together as two of the best dogs on the card. Dogs priced like that on the card. Let's get to another great fight. You had back-to-back 5 stars. Now what I love to see, and I could not agree more, 4-star, 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 4-star. A 2 right here. Absolutely agree. You also look at, though, what's interesting, big favorite, big favorite, big favorite, big favorite, big favorite. This is what I talked about. The story of the slate's big favorites, the ones at least down here are a little lower in odds, and I'll be targeting that. And the later the fight, I like a lot of the favorites, so I don't like too many dogs. So I tip my hand. I'm going to have you try and help me which ones of these dogs are your favorite, though. Doesn't look like Luana Panero is, and I agree. Jillian Robertson's a big favorite, minus 375. Panero plus 310, minus 225 for this fight to finish. Robertson minus 175 inside the distance. Panero plus 700. Man, do you love to see that? Let's see what this. It was minus 180 yesterday inside the distance, this fight. Now it's minus 225. Robertson was minus 135 at open. Now minus 175 inside the distance. Make it even better. She also averages 2.48 takedowns per 15 minutes. Has won majority of her fights by submission. It all looks pretty good, man. We got steam. We have a wrestler, a big favorite, one of the best plays on the card. But, we talked about it. Look at all these people in the 9Ks. Good luck figuring out which one I will be mixing and matching. Robertson, I think, very well might be my favorite, though. How do you see this one?
Yeah, Robertson. Give me all the Robertson. Panero's the better striker. If she can stuff takedowns, then maybe she has a chance in this one. But Robertson's just too good at knowing where she's good. So even if the first few takedowns don't happen, she's going to keep going for them. And once she gets the fight to the ground, Panero's not going to be able to do a lot about it. And she's also going to be the one struggling with cardio. She'll be freaking out on the ground, trying to get back to her feet. And if she can't do it, she's going to slow down more and more. And Robertson's not going to slow down. Robertson's going to be there for 3 rounds, heavy on top, or she's going to get a submission. So, yeah, I want a bunch of Robertson. She's one of my favorite plays on the card. Panero, probably a full pass for me. I doubt I get there. If I make 150 lineups, I'd be fine with, in between 5 and 10%, but I wouldn't go over 10%. And I'd be fine fading her with 150 too.
I love it. We couldn't agree more. She's not going to make my 20 entry pool. 150. Yeah, I'd probably have a couple sprinkles, but most play 20 teams or less. That's how I designed the slate plan. Again, I break down all the fights in the slate plan. The tags are there. Explain it. Big Marley has hit all of his thoughts per fight and predictions in the fight rankings. You get the sneak peek at his stats right here. But college football going on, no better team in the business. NFL, PGA swing season going on. NBA, of course. Shout out Rio and the team. Always grinding. No better spot to be. NBA 15 is still available. All you got to do, I'll show you actually right now. ShippingNation.com. You'll get to this homepage. This is our best deal per month. All access also includes the Discord. All you got to do is click. Otherwise, join the nation right here. Gets you, if you want to check out weekly, monthly, 6 month, per sport, projections, ownership, whatever you want, multiple options. Let's go back to MMA. Let's go back to the Stone. Again, all content will be up tomorrow. Keep it rolling to the next fight. A very similar fight to the last fight, in my opinion. Another pretty good one. Renee de Ritter taking on Gerald Mearshart, minus 300. Ritter plus 250 is Mearshart, minus 165 for this fight to finish. De Ritter plus 110 inside the distance. Mearshart plus 350. Take it away. What do you see? Sorry, I caught you chewing.
Yeah, this Ritter guy, he was like a double champ with one championship or something like that. So when I went into this, I was expecting him to kind of be like a world beater. And I think I was the most impressed with him, on the ground. I think his grappling was pretty good. He could be dominant and top control in some fights, but he was getting taken down in other fights. He is 12-0 to the submission, where Mearshart has like 20 plus subs, but he's been submitted 8 times, I believe. So that's not great. The striking, I've heard people say that Ritter's going to have a huge striking advantage in this fight. I don't know that I saw that from the fights that I watched of him. I was not really impressed with his striking, and I feel like Mearshart can keep this fight close on the feet. Mearshart's dangerous on the ground too. He could give him the first submission loss of his career. And if it's a 15-minute back-and-forth fight, I think Mearshart's super alive in that. So I would think that the line should be closer than it is. And either one of them could have a lot of grappling success in this one. So I'm going to target the fight fairly heavily. It could also kind of cancel out and we get a slow-paced striking match. That would really suck. I don't think either one of them are that dangerous on the feet. But I think the sub on either side could come. So I'll say that. Actually, I don't know. I don't really have a preferred play in this one. If I'm floating around the 9K range, then I'll be putting Ritter in my lineups. But if I need a punt underdog, Mearshart's probably my favorite cheapo on the card.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to be playing both of them. If I had to pick a preferred side, probably GM3, just because Savvy Vet, I think he's live. 2K savings goes a long way. And I think I like Robertson more. I think I like Munster a little more if I had to pick, but we also have projected a little higher own. And man, it's so close. He has all the wrestling and grappling upside too, according to the books. It's not often to see a guy have this much better of a submission prop over a guy like GM3, but GM3 has been subbed quite a bit. But I mean, De Ritter's sub prop open plus 215, now plus 190. That's a pretty big movement right there. So I like it. I'll be playing both sides. Good fight to target. Minus 165 to finish. What's going on, Little Neck? You the man. Hope everything's going well. Everyone's the man that watches, or the woman, especially if you hit that like button and subscribe button. Helps us out a ton, bringing you these shows every single week. Keep it rolling, Big Marley. Couple fights left. Bernardo Sopai taking on Ricky Tercios, plus 120, or Sopai minus 360. Tercios plus 285, plus 120 for this fight to finish. Sopai plus 170 inside the distance. Tercios plus 550. Interesting fight. Slightly favored to go the distance. And you're looking at ownership. Again, I already mentioned the lower tier, pretty much all spread out. Tercios is not going to be high owned at all. Pretty low owned. Sopai, he's not going to be low owned, but we got Renee de Ritter, higher owned. Robertson, higher owned. Mansour Abdul, higher owned. Prates, higher owned. So, I mean, this fight's very fair ownership, slight favorite to go the distance. But, hey, looking at the Stone right here, 3.06 takedowns. It is a small sample. Tercios, not too bad himself for the price. Last thing to note, pretty big reach and height advantage on the Tercio side. Soai 7 years younger, though. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I think Soai is the pick in this one. He took his last fight on short notice, and I believe it was maybe up a weight class as well. But he was looking really good. He was looking like he was going to break the slate. His wrestling was looking on point, and then he just started to slow down because of the wrestling. So I would think on a full camp, especially after kind of being taught that lesson, hopefully the cardio's in check in this one. Turkios does not have great takedown defense. I think Soai could go out there and land 8 takedowns in a decision if he wanted to, if the cardio was there, and he could score 100+ points. So I like Soai, but at the same time, I do worry about that cardio. And then Turkios is a cardio machine. He's high volume. He's not very good anywhere, but he's just got a high work rate. And if Soai is going to slow down, Turkios could really put it on him and have a pretty decent ceiling. So Turkios, another punt. I like him, and Mirart will be cheapos that I'm clicking on in this fight. But I just think that Soai is better than him. And if he doesn't slow down in this fight, I think he could win anywhere, but his wrestling is where he should win. So give me Soai to put up a decent score. I like him.
I like it. I'm on the Soai side as well. I will play some Tercios because, again, plus 250 or plus 285, it's pretty big dog. But there's a lot of big dogs. And I do think if Tercios wins, he probably scores. Like, he's always doing something, except the Zahavi fight. That fight was awful. But I think Soai at least pushes the pace enough where some reversals, maybe scrambles, he ends up on top, volume. I think if he wins, again, I'll take any win as a dog, but like I like his upside more than Staman's down below. I like it more than probably Segula. That's pretty close, but yeah, I'm going to be playing some Tercios, but I think Soai wins the fight. He's my preferred play in this one. Going to get to a fight I do not like and will be a fade for me in 20 entry and below. Doesn't look like you like it much either with the 2-star, but a big favorite and a very clear pivot fight if you want to get to it, especially Denise Gomes, minus 500, Karolina Kolakiewicz, plus 385, plus 165 for this fight to finish. I will say this fight opened plus 215. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Go. You know what? I'm gonna take this back. I might have to play some Denise Gomes. This line movement is big. So it was plus 215 to finish, now plus 165. Gomes opened plus 210 inside the distance, now plus 165. There's been that's some pretty significant line movement. Do you see it going that way, Big Marley? So I guess you might be the ultimate deciding factor.
I do think Gomes is live to get a knockout in this fight. At lower ownership, I'm pretty cool with her in some lineups. I think she's a solid pivot away from Prates. I do think she's a little bit better. I don't know about everywhere. I think a 15-minute striking match could actually favor KK. But aside from that, just a 15-minute overall MMA fight, Gomes is the better wrestler. She's the more powerful fighter in this one. If there's a knockdown, it's going to be her getting it. If anyone's getting 5+ takedowns, it's probably her getting them. So I just think she is our minute winner, unless she just has a poor game plan and wants to spar with KK for 15 minutes. That's what puts KK in play to win. And then she could rack up enough volume to where she's scoring more than 10x in a decision win. I just don't know how likely that is at this point in her career. She's kind of going to be on the way out soon, where Gomes is the young, hungry lion. So I'm picking Gomes to win. I think most likely she wins and scores 80 points. So I don't like her. But if you're eating all the Dos Santos chalk, I think her over a Prates is a decent move to take, and then maybe find one other way to get a little different too. But yeah, give me Gomes to win.
I like it. Yeah, I'm going to play some Gomes. I was initially going to fade in 20 and below, but even if I got 10%, like we have Gomes, I'm not going to say all the ownership, but I even think we might even be a little hot on Gomes.
Yeah, I have her pretty high right now. Ownership was tough. I'm gonna revisit it tomorrow.
Yeah. Gomes probably going to be like what, 18%, something around there. It's not low, plus 160, plus 165 though. Yeah, that line movement, changing, updating the slate plan right now. So I'm gonna keep her in the pool, I think. But if that changes, again, all the content always updated on the site for the members. Last fight, main event time. Talked a little bit about it. Carlos Prates taking on Neil Magny. Tied for the biggest favorite on the card. Minus 750 is Prates. Plus 550 is Neil Magny. Most likely fight to finish. Minus 800. Prates minus 400. Neil Magny plus 550. Neil Magny is a sitting duck. Carlos Prates is good, man. This dude's striking. His feints. He is fun to watch. He is growing on me. Smoke cigs? I mean, come on. What fighter be smoking cigs like that and actually mauling dudes? The thing is, and we talked about it earlier, yes, he is the highest priced, biggest favorite too. He has no wrestling upside. Absolutely none. 4.71 significant strikes per minute. If he doesn't get a first-round knockout, second could score 100. 100 might not be good enough. Probably isn't actually good enough. Third round, fourth round, etc. So he can win and not get there, and we've seen it. He also does have upside, and obviously has plenty of knockdown upside. And the good thing about him is he doesn't like go in like when he gets a knockdown for the kill shot. Sometimes takes his time. Other dude recovers, gets up, knocks his ass down again, as we've seen. So he's just my thought. We have him at 50%. The other fighters, I think, are lower owned and have damn near the same upside or more, I'll argue. Like Robertson has more upside, I think, than Prates due to the wrestling and just chaining takedowns. And she's cheaper. So I'll probably end up underweight Prates at most 50%. But I mean, I'm really excited to see what he does in the UFC. He's a problem.
Yeah, I actually think I'm going to go low on this fight. I don't think I want to go with any Magny. This is a fight set up for Prates to get his hand raised. Coming off an awesome performance where Magny's coming off a complete dud. He's towards the end of his career, where Prates looks like he could be a title contender. Really good striking. Dangerous as well. Just long striker, accurate, hits right where he wants to, basically. And that performance against Li Jingliang was just like everyone was sold on it. So that's why he is in this main event right here, is because of how great he looked in that last fight. Without that fight, there's no way he would have been a minus 800 here. And it's also like he's a really good striker, but it takes him a while to get going, in my opinion. It's not like he just starts out and he's dangerous right off the opening bell. He kind of starts feeling himself, and then that's when he gets dangerous. But who knows how long it'll take. I kind of think it'll be a little slow start here. He also has a possible 5 rounds to work. So I like Prates over 1.5 rounds on this one, and that's probably not great for him at $9,600 on DraftKings. So at 50% ownership, and Magny's getting a decent amount too for how cheap he is, in my opinion. I'm going to go low on this fight and just get some exposure to the other guys in that 9K range instead. I definitely like Robertson. I definitely like Malik. But getting away from Prates will help me get to more of the Soai and the Ritter as well, maybe a little Gomes as well too. So I might, like 10 lineups, maybe I even fade this fight and look to go to those other ones instead and hope that Prates wins after the second round and scores 89 points.
I love it. Everything. I couldn't agree more. I'm going to have no Neil Magny. I probably would have none in 150 teams. I think he's going to get worked, but Prates really has to first round knockout, multiple knockdowns in second round. What's it? First round prop is plus 200. Like Malachi is better that you talked about, Monster. So yeah, I don't love it. Plus 300 round 2. That's about as low as you almost ever see. Round 2, really close to round 1 as well. So, which makes sense, like you said, can be a slow starter. When he starts touching his opponents, feeling himself, GG's. I think Neil Magny going to have a big boy problem. Great stuff as always, Big Marley. Any final thoughts you want to say to the people before we get on out of here? Appreciate every single one watching.
Hopefully it's a nice bankroll builder for the pay-per-view next week. Good luck to you, Title. Good luck to everybody listening. Let's ship it.
Let's ship it is right. Good luck. MMA Saturday, right into free money Sunday. Nothing better. Best time of the year. Head over to shippingnation.com. Join it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on the way out. Have a great weekend. Be safe. For Big Marley, I'm Title Town. Peace.